My name is Geiger. I work at a company called Nexia, which is actually located in Broomfield, Colorado. And this talk was kind of based on an application I wrote and actually gave a lightning talk about 2 years ago. We do stuff with thermostats, and there's a lot of string processing in regards to that. We get a lot of messages that come in as strings. And when I originally wrote my implementation, it was actually kind of like I realized an error, and I decided to benchmark things just to see how I could improve it. So I just wanted to give some examples of the original implementation, and then eventually some of the examples I came up with. So the first thing would be just the regex match in line. So essentially you have a function, and you actually compile the regex inside of the function. Then I tried pre-compiling it, and just to see how that would work. Then we go into just match string using a precompiled regex. Authorization, just doing strings contain. So now I've moved into the strings package just to see how that would work, because I'm dealing with a lot of strings. I tried strings with a constant just to see if that made any difference. And then I moved into strings prefix. At least most of the time what I care about is, does it start with this? So the other thing that I did is some of these messages, I don't care just about the prefix. I actually care, did it match a prefix and then a certain piece of data into that, followed by a suffix. So for that, that's where you kind of think, well, gee, regexes would kind of make sense. So in this case, I'm actually matching the beginning, and looking for that there's digits somewhere in between that series. And another thing I did was just, well, what would happen if I tried to use strings prefix, trimming the prefix, and then ensuring that the suffix exists? Like, would I actually gain anything out of doing that? So here are the benchmarks for it, and it did not, okay, it didn't keep that. And if we run the benchmarks, and go through and look, doing it in line is pretty, I guess, fast in a relative sense compared to Ruby, but it's actually pretty slow doing it in line. And as you go bit by bit, the compiled is a little faster. It seems like the match string is a little faster than that. I'm just going to run it again. Just when you run benchmarks, run it more than once at least. I guess I can look at it here. Just when I added a failing in just to say like, hey, what happens in the failure case? It's actually pretty fast. But as soon as you go into contains, it actually gets a little faster. Failing in the contains is even faster than that. The constant doesn't seem to make much of a difference. And once you get into prefix and the prefix failing, it becomes really, really fast. Moving into if it's a unit message, so there's the regex version of that. And if you go into actually strings with the prefix and then splitting it with the trim, it actually looks it's about 3 to 4 times faster. So it was just one of those like, wow, if I use strings prefix, I'm actually speeding it up a whole lot. So I guess one of the main takeaway from this is, don't do that. Because I looked at it when I first went back to look at the program, it's like, why was I doing this every time I was doing it? Just really bad. So thank you. My name is Joey, and I work at Nexia.